Though we live in a world of disarray, I shall undertake to restore all that has been broken.
The Hydro Dragon could, in turn, be regarded as this planet's original god of life. There's no way! The beating heart that commanded this primordial sea of blood was the first Hydro Dragon.
Nothing will stop me from rendering judgment on each of the 7.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Genshin Impact lore reading video. We just wrapped up the lore for Furina, the former Hydro Archon of Fontaine. Very interesting to just get like her perspective on everything that's happened, learn a lot about her from the perspective of an actor, a musician, someone that kind of enjoys the musics and the theatrics of everything, as is her overarching role throughout the last 500 years. And it was just really great to just get her personality and know that she has a new lease on life, one that's kind of exciting and new and different, from meeting friends to experiencing things for the first time and just kind of building up a new sense of confidence for herself. She's such a badass. She's so cool. I'm still really protective and I love her to death. Really glad to finally learn about the true Furina moving forward now. I hope we get more of her in the story, like I said, for a future story quest or an event quest or something like that, or maybe something further with the Archons once we get further along the line of like Celestia, Conria, the Abyss, or anything like that. But we are now switching over to the big cheese of the courthouse. I guess like the true hero at this point of the prophecy and everything else in regards to Furina's Grandmaster plan. The Hydro Dragon Sovereign of Fontaine, the Eudex Monsieur Neuvillette. And I have no idea what this is going to give us in terms of his perspective on things as a dragon, reincarnated, retaining his full dragonhood at this point, and just being such a massive centerpiece for everything that's happened in the nation, from stopping the primordial sea to kind of establishing a deeper connection and understanding with the Melazines and humans. He was kind of like the glue that held everything together, and he was ultimately the person that Focalors was thinking about in terms of her like long-term effects of this entire masquerade of the guilty play. Very excited to see where things go and very excited to see what we learn about Neuvillette here. His birthday is December 18th, so his birthday's in about a month from the time of this recording, which is exciting. Affiliated with the Court of Fontaine, Ancient Dragon's Authority, Hydro, of course, we know that. He is the harnesser of all things Hydro in the nation, or in the world of Teyvat. And he is the Chief Justice of Fontaine, known as the Eudex, is renowned for his unassailable impartiality. Also, that too, he's got that going for him. All right, here we go. Character details. Neuvillette is a solitary person. Fontainians who have tried to get close to him have, without exception, been politely rejected. To this day, no one even knows his first name, since he has always asked to be referred to by his last name. Okay, that is interesting. I didn't realize that. I actually never thought of that. Monsieur Neuvillette would be a last name introduction. Bro, so he's literally like the Archons, where the Archons have like a name, but then they have like a demon name. Like there's Venti, Barbados, A, Beelzebul. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm kind of curious what his name would be, if anyone has kind of theorized what that could be. I don't know enough about like the external references of Genshin to be able to put 2 and 2 together on that, but that's very interesting. Yeah, there's Boer, there's Morax, etc., etc. John Neuvillette. Yeah, let's go with that. He seems like a John, am I right? John is as old as the Bible, and I feel like that's as old as Neuvillette is, so it kind of adds up, you know what I mean? He believes that close personal ties will lead to suspicions about the justness of one's judgment, while he must remain a symbol of absolute justice. Of course, there will always be people who just won't give up. They will say, "Come on, Monsieur Neuvillette, not everyone will stand trial, nor will you always have to remain in the judge's seat." But is that really the case? If there is an answer in his heart, Neuvillette will not reveal it. Given enough time, every river will overflow and flood. Every last Fontainian is guilty, with judgment and doom certain to one day fall upon them. This is neither metaphoric nor rhetoric. Yet Neuvillette can share this fact with no one. Truly, he is a lonesome person. Well, he absolved Fontaine of all their sins now, so maybe this is the turning point for him. I hope so. Mans can finally have some friends in his life. Character Story 1. Neuvillette is not known for his personal desires. Curious members of the public and journalists are wont to seek high and low for him all across Fontaine when he is not seating the Chief Justice's seat of judgment. He may sit at a seat for specially invited guests during performances, appear by the shores when the skies are just on the cusp of weeping, or be standing within the shadows cast by the afternoon sun. There was once a time when all believed that he was a kind of demon who existed solely to preside over trials and judge, forcing him to clarify that. He's like, I would like the record to show that I am in fact not a sacrilegious demon. Well, the gist of this was to bear witness and judge is my great honor, but I am not a trial aficionado. Udix is simply one of the hats I wear, and my time as a judge is but one phase of my life. This successful clarification led him out of the frying pan and into the fire, and the fire was hotter than the two. Shocking news! Neuvillette claims Udix is a springboard post. Unspeakable plans next. Where will his ambition end? Bruh. As for the new rumors, Neuvillette paid them no heed. Perhaps they were, in fact, right on the Mora, and he simply did not correct them out of principle. No one knows. Neuvillette is also not much of a drinker. That's cap. Have you heard this man's water lore? I refuse to believe that.
Water comes in many flavors. To the compact water is crisp and pure. Water from the water possesses a depth. The water possesses a depth so flavor unlike any other.
Neuvillette is also not much of a drinker, nor does he like Fanta. Indeed, he has never been known to have given a sincere praise to the local chef's most renowned dishes. This has led people to suspect that his lack of consumptive desire may come from him simply not having a sense of taste. Damn. They're straight disrespecting Neuvillette. His response was to organize a water tasting salon party. At which all were gobsmacked by the wide variety of flavors water from different nations could possess, and flooded by the Udix's most refined tastes. Of course, the amount of authenticity present in such interactions cannot be known, but whatever the case, Neuvillette really is devoid of selfish want. A water tasting party, bro. He must have been so excited. He must have been like, oh man, this is it. This is what's gonna get me in with the crowd. I can't wait. Bro, water all tastes the same. I'm sorry. No, I know water tastes different, but it's just like, does it taste different enough to have like an in-depth like discussion about, like, does water taste so different that we really need to come together and just have like a cultural discussion on the refining taste of water? Tap water, bottled water, brand water, filtered water. Absolutely. Okay, I guess maybe we should do that, chat. Maybe we should host the first ever Genshin Impact water tasting stream where I just kind of give my basic take. Yeah, tastes like water. Next. Tastes like water. Next. I couldn't do it justice. Not like Neuvillette. Character story 2. That is a good idea, though. A good stream idea. Character story 2. Neuvillette is a just person. If not for that quality, he would not have been qualified to serve as the Udix in the first place. To the children, the job of the man in the judge's seat is nothing more than wearing a wig, maintaining order in the court, and being the oratrice's messenger pigeon. Goddamn. The kids straight are roasting this guy. In truth, however, there are many administrative affairs that he must handle in private to keep the justice system up and running. Due to certain historical and traditional legacies in Fontaine, the Udix also has the right to prosecute, as well as the power to enforce the law in person. This is originally intended to make it easier to maintain law and order during chaotic times. But as the system becomes further refined, this rule, which represented the spirit of the pioneer, far more than the law, became maintained only symbolically. When the Udix investigates a case or serves as the prosecutor, they must recuse themselves as judge and have someone else take the seat. Oh, that's interesting. So if Neuvillette was ever to prosecute, he couldn't be prosecutor and judge at the same time. And in the few instances where he personally investigated cases, Neuvillette has erringly followed this rule. One thing to note is that he has only been the Udix of the land for a long time, so much so that people often speculate that he must have been given an unimaginably long life due to divine favor. As such, It is well that he is nothing if not fair-minded, or such an extensive term would surely lead to problems someday. As to what he is precisely, a familiar of the Hydro Archon or a mysterious hydro-elemental creature, perhaps? Who knows for sure? There are a great many opinions, though Neuvillette has never once commented on such talk. Indeed, he is a person most impartial. Nice, nice, nice. Neuvillette's goated. He was meant for the courthouse. We move. Character story 3. Due to a variety of reasons, Fontaine's legal codices retain all matter of odd articles from days past. Neuvillette himself contributed this clause. Oh my god, he's goated for this one. The Melazine clause. Neuvillette himself contributed this clause. A Melazine shall be regarded as she rather than it, for they are people too. This might look strange on its face, but the more one considers it, the more it makes sense. After all, Melazine have been found all over Fontaine since near modern times, and fighting for equal rights for them beginning with terms of address send a powerful signal. Indeed, Fontainians have noticed that Neuvillette displays different amounts of warmth towards Melazines and humans. Most regard this as an understated goodness of his heart, having found an outlet becoming the love of a father. Oh my god. He's literally the adoptive father of the Melazines. Oddly enough, this one only gets stranger the more one knows about Neuvillette, for he is a Hydro Dragon, and in this capacity, he regards Melazines as dependents and successors, and also as the finest example of a sort of Hydro Vishap species. Wow, that is interesting. I mean, it makes sense, right? You know, you're my brother from another mother. You know what I mean? It's like, well, they come from Elenus, who is presumably an abyssal dragon creation similar to Durin, and they're the offspring creation of Elenus. You know, it's like a cat. I've seen things like on Twitter where like, oh, a mother cat like lost her litter and then basically raised all these chickens, like these little chicks. She became like the surrogate mother of these like other creatures that have nothing to do, like she didn't raise them, but they're basically being raised as if they were her own. I feel like that's the same case with Neuvillette here. He didn't birth the Melazines, but because they're of dragonhood, they're of dragon kind, he's like, you know what? It's only natural for me to like have their best interests at heart. Ah, that's so good, man. I love that. Yet he is also the destroyer of the present order, the one who shall judge all gods and the foe of humanity. So why then does he secure human rights for the Melazines? You alone could ask him this question, and this is his response. It wasn't up to me. Melazines simply prefer being around humans, that's all. I love it, dude. I love his relationship with the Melazine so much. Melazine in general, like, his story quest was so goated and, like, just kind of reinforced that admiration I have for him. And yeah, if you talk shit about Melazines, if you bully Melazines, you deserve what's coming to you. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. That one guy, that one NPC is like, show yourselves, you cowards. Like, that guy is my hero. I want to be able to wake up every day and live my life like him. Character story 4. Neuvillette has always favored rainy days. What? But that's when he's crying. What do you mean? That's so depressing. That's so sad. Neuvillette has always favored rainy days over sunny ones, as the moisture-laden air helps him relax. However, it has been a long time since he last delighted in standing under the rain. It seems that from the time he chose to walk alongside Fontaine, he began to play the role of a strictly law-abiding normal person. Of course, normal people would not walk through the rain without an umbrella, allowing the rain to drench their hair. It was worth mentioning that the role of Chief Justice is as much his true self as the Hydro Dragon is his essence. Only the role of normal human is one he must play. It was in their solitude and guilt that humans invented a god to judge them, and in their greed and guilt that they created a god to save them. And with that god no longer present, it falls to Neuvillette to fulfill such expectations. I wonder when this piece of lore was unlocked. I don't know what was locked because of the Archon quest, but this sounds like post-Archon quest stuff right now. I hope this was locked. I hope people weren't just like spoiled on this. He had pardoned humanity and has regained his original form. Now he can finally walk in the rain and enjoy it. Indeed, he did do exactly this and stand in the rain. He gazed upon the distance, reminiscing about that day, so long ago when he had received that letter. Yes, a letter had found its way to him by some unknown means. The name of the recipient had been left blank, and with the text only addressing him simply as you. Yo, Did Focalors also lure Neuvillette to Fontaine in her grandmaster plan of giving? Like, you would have to assume she did that too, right? Because her grand plan was to give him his sovereignty back, and the only way that would work is if she set him up to be in Fontaine and build a rapport with the Melusine and build a rapport with humans and get to that point where he became a trustworthy individual that people would be okay with him leading after she was gone. She really did everything for him. It's so wild. It's so crazy how much she like put in play for this man. You know, now it's up to him. Now he's like the perfect candidate to kind of look over Fontaine. A special you, a unique you. Neuvillette was not opposed to such a manner, but neither did he approve of it. He felt vaguely that the powers that be of the present world had no real right to judge him so. He knew that this letter had been written by Archon Focalors, who had invited him to come to see Fontaine, claiming, "I shall leave you a seat with the greatest view in the greatest theater." There it is. Later, he would indeed come to receive that very seat in the middle of the front row of the Opera Epiclese on the island known as Erineus. He would watch all manner of performances there, and the view was indeed excellent, just as Focalors had claimed. I'm wondering if that's the seat that he was sitting in when we first met him in the opera house. In the middle of the front row. I wonder if that was the seat. Because I remember when we met him, he was already sitting down. He's like, this seat literally has his name on it. That'd be hilarious. What happened later was not made public knowledge. In all likelihood, the people had no way of understanding what it meant that the throne was shattered, or how the power of water was fully restored to its original owner. As to that being pardoned, and why they had to be forgiven in the first place, that was an even broader and more complex tale. And thus did the curtain fall. Fontaine witnessed a happy ending to the greatest drama in history. That's really what it was. Like, Fontaine's whole Archon quest was just a big drama. Or was it? A happy ending, that is. It was then that Neuvillette understood that the seat mentioned in the letter was not merely a chair in the opera house. Focalors, or Farina, he should say, had given up her seat in the audience, come on stage alone, and became the heroine of the drama. There were only ever a fixed number of seats, and for one to sit down was for another to depart. That letter had been an invitation issued several centuries in advance. Well, Hydro Dragon, how do you feel about becoming a member of the human audience? Are you enjoying this human drama? Question mark. So it basically means like she was referring to the divine seat of the Archons, because it says here too, there can only ever be a fixed number of seats, and for one to be seated, another has to depart. So in order for A to be seated, Makoto had to depart. In order for Nahida to be seated, Rukkhadevata had to depart. Focalors was like, fuck that shit. I'm going out, and I'm taking my chair with me. What a great retelling. What a great elaboration of the story. Sometimes I question my ability to just see a good story coming. I guess we all kind of feel this way. We just experience peak. We experience peak fiction, and then we say, this is peak, it can't get any better. But like, in my head, I'm thinking to myself, there is a potential that the Natlan Archon quest is going to be better than this. I'm just like, how is that even possible? I can't even perceive that. And like, that storyline is just so wildly different, because I'm expecting Natlan to just be a fucking war-torn, Wild West, like barren, volcanic wasteland of just nonstop violence and damnation. And I'm just like, how do you create a poignant story around war and around, I assume, bloodshed and violence? I don't know, man. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I just love how they fleshed out this story. Obviously, the approach and the tone and the style is going to be different than this one, but I thought Sumeru's Archon quest was better than anything they had put out from Mondstadt, Liyue, or Inazuma, and now I feel the same way about Fontaine to Sumeru. Is Natlan really going to surpass Fontaine in my eyes? Is Snezhnaya going to overcome Natlan? Is Khaenri'ah going to overcome, you know what I mean? Like, is it really possible for them to just keep outdoing themselves? It's kind of crazy. And I mean, the best of all, the Capitano's in Natlan, so they're already goated. It's already better than Sumeru just because Capitano is there. They just need to do the bare minimum moving forward for it to be better than Fontaine. That's a completely biased statement, by the way. Anyways, character story 5. One as great as he shall have no need for a constellation to shine over him. After all, fate is merely the manner in which the present ruler of this world plays with living beings. Ooh, god damn, that is powerful. Now that he has obtained one part of the 7 of the authority over the mortal realm and reforged the throne and the title of fully fledged dragon, he is strong enough to equal and rival the human realm, and logic would dictate that he need not subscribe to that system known as fate. Oh my god. Neuvillette is literally like, I am him. Nothing as simple as fate will stop me. He can see in the skies of destiny how many stars contend with one another, creating a complicated, fragile world. He did not initially care much about such, for the puppet strings glossed as divine rules would one day be burned away by the fires of judgment. But he too was taken in by that certain pleasing rhetoric. In that case, why don't you just watch over the Fontanians? They were born from the primordial sea after all. That makes them part of this world's native life too, and a form of life that requires your care. That is true. Wow. So if there's anybody worth protecting in this world, it is the Fontanians, because their genetic makeup comes from the same primordial place that Neuvillette comes from, like the beginning, you know what I mean? God, that is so good. He would never admit that he himself has become quite fascinated with the joys and sorrows of humanity. Was it not so? He would argue that humans find their gaze stolen by the ripples of falling raindrops in puddles. And could it not be, he would explain, that King Nibelun had been wronged, and the Black Void would only be opposed if all life were to band together as one. Holy shit. Thus did he, in the end, come into his own fate. The skies had left a special and noble place for him, one reserved for the overseers and those who could defy the world itself, that of his own reflection. Of course, he was born in the form of a human, but why then is his name the image of the great Leviathan? Well, this leads us to a more mundane explanation of the situation, one quite separate from grave matters of the world's fate. As the one named Neuvillette, he would often be roped by Melusines, especially Sigewinne, into a bit of astronomy via the Steambird's constellation column or astronomy guides from Sumeru. Would it really do at that point to tell them that he didn't have a constellation, or that his own constellation was just Neuvillette? Oh, astrology. Yeah, not astronomy. I guess that's the same column that like Mona tends to, right? Mona's like, what? Neuvillette, he is so important now. He is like the biggest asset we have to opposing Celestia. He needs to find a pep and like calm her ass down and like really get her on our side. The problem is that the other Archons exist. You know, none of the other Archons are like ready to kick the bucket for these dragons to get their sovereignty back. It was Focalors that really kind of defied all possibility in making that happen. And so I can't really expect the same thing to happen to any of the other Archons unless they died of like natural situations in their quest lines. Fuck, that would suck if that even happened. You know what I mean? If at the end of this journey, you know, it's like the only way that we can really fight back is if the dragons have their original powers back. I feel like the Archons would literally give up that power without a second thought if they really knew what was at stake. The Gnosis are created from the remains of the third Descender. A Gnosis equals the remains of the third Descender plus a dragon's authority, a dragon's elemental authority. That is what a Gnosis is. And in my head, I'm like, well, where the fuck is this Electro Dragon? I don't know if Dvalin and Ajdaha are these other elemental sovereign dragons and they just don't know, or, you know, maybe they're dormant. Maybe their power is so dormant, or they're like, that's so removed from who they are now. Oh yeah, that is true, actually. The authority is not a part of the Gnosis. I just remembered that. Yeah, that's why he gave his Gnosis away. So it has nothing to do with the Gnosis. Yeah, the Gnosises do enhance elemental elements, like elemental power. I was a little petty about that when I realized it, but I can't tell you how many people at the time when Inazuma came out, myself and other people mentioned it too, how like we would have gotten destroyed by A if we were actually fighting her with her Gnosis. But because there was no evidence to suggest that Gnosises were amplified power, it's like, why? I don't care if there was no evidence. That would be stupid if a Gnosis didn't do that. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't need evidence to make that assumption. And I rode that assumption this entire time. And then when it's confirmed, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so shocked. Who would have thought that a Gnosis enhances people's power? I don't need everything like spoon-fed to me for me to like completely believe it or not. Like, it just made sense to me. I think it's just really cool that we finally have this dragon plotline in the forefront. And even people that don't really focus on the depth of lore that the game offered prior to this Archon quest are kind of on board with that plot line as well, right? This was lost in a fucking book in Enkanomiya, and the only people that really knew about it were people that did the work to kind of figure out and dig deep for that lore that far back. But I love how it's now at the forefront. It's something that's going to be in every player's mind. That is the plot now. Like, the plot of Lumine, that is so far left, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, now the plot is the elemental dragons and just trying to like figure out what the hell is going on with like all of these other factors that seemingly are all on the same side, but they're all doing things differently, right? Like the Fatui and the Abyss and these dragons and the Traveler, technically, like they're all working towards a common goal, which is Celestia, but they're all going about it very differently. I'm just excited to see what Neuvillette has planned for his powers and how he's going to utilize it, and if he is going to judge all other gods, you know, other nations, or even the gods of Celestia as their mortal enemy, you know, as their native, natural-born enemy of the past. And I really hope that there isn't another prophecy of another human reincarnated in the form of a dragon. Basically, what I'm saying is I hope Neuvillette doesn't die. That would really suck for him to die twice. All right, here we go. A Fontanian nursery rhyme. Oh my God. I'm gonna cry right now. Hydro Dragon, don't cry. No one knows who composed this children's song or when, but it was organically spread throughout Fontaine all the same. Neuvillette has been somewhat perplexed by this. No matter how much time he spent with Fontanians or how much they've been through together, he still cannot quite put a finger on how people view the real him, or that is to say, the Hydro Dragon. In addition to commanding the power of Hydro, the Hydro Dragon also had mastery over the sea that was the source of life. Before any outside life forms were ever created, all life of this planet traced its origins to the primordial sea. Indeed, those placid waters were worthy of the title of birthing waters, or amniotic fluid, given by those who came after. And the Hydro Dragon could, in turn, be regarded as this planet's original god of life. Holy moly. Flower of life. Plume of death. Sands of time. Goblet of Eonathum. Circlet of Logos. These are the four shades. Sands of time, that's Istaroth. God of life. Neuvillette, hello? I don't know if it's Neuvillette, but potentially. So I wonder if that means there is a god of death. What does Eonathum mean? Space? Like the void? A god of space, a god of time, a god of life, and a god of death. They parallel each other. Holy shit, I don't know what, and this is like a crown. So this might be, oh, actually, this would be Thanos and his four shades. Holy shit. Is the unknown god, was the unknown god one of the four shades then? Because she's giving Hersher of the Void vibes, honestly. Logos is reason / logic. Oh my God. Yeah, there's a reason why we have a 5-piece artifact set, ladies and gentlemen. That off piece is coming in real handy now. That's why we have 4-piece bonuses, the 4 shades. And then the off piece is because of Thanos, the one, like the almighty. Sheesh. And the Hydro Dragon could in turn be regarded as this planet's original god of life before Thanos pulled up. Neuvillette knows all this, of course, just like he knows that all rivers meet again at the Great Ocean. These birthing waters might not be of any special importance to humans, but for Neuvillette, he could differentiate every drop, every minute. Every minute memory. I hate how minute and minute are spelled the same way, and the only way you would know which one to use is based on the context of the sentence. That really pisses me off. I fucking hate that. I hate the English language, by the way. He could differentiate every drop, every minute memory. I'm sorry for the rant. He still remembers the foreign usurper appointing their... There's no way! There's no shot! There's no fucking way there's no way that I just lined that up, bro. Fanus was so jealous of Neuvillette, he's like, I want my own god of life. Oh my god! He still remembers the foreign usurper appointing their own god of life in order to order the living. So does he remember bits and pieces of his past because of the water? Holy, because this would have been before he died, no? Or is this after he died? This could be after he died, actually, because Fanus didn't create new life until he killed off until he defeated the dragons. So killed off the dragons, Neuvillette reincarnates amongst humans, and he's like, oh, I remember I was there the day that the god of life came into being. I think this is like his earliest memories post-reincarnation. I really hope we meet these 4 shades in Celestia. I assume the 4 shades are just big chillin' in Celestia along with Fanus, if that is even the current rule. We still don't know about the second who came. We're not going to learn about them, I think, until Celestia, which sucks. Because I don't know who won. I don't know who won that war. It's weird to me that it would have been Fanus that won. Because then why wouldn't he bring Byakuya Koku back from the depths if that was a part of his original civilization? It would make more sense if the person that beat him was like, fuck that place. We don't need them. We're calling the shots now. He still remembers the foreign usurper appointing their own god of life to order the living. He still remembers how the usurper made her to suppress the original vital force of this planet. And of course, he also knows how she came to commit... Wait a minute. Wait, what? Was it Jiria, the Shade of Life? Oh my god. No wonder she's guilty by Celestia. Was she created by a shade or was she a shade? Wait, she's the creation of the Shade of Life. This line says, he still remembers how the usurper had made her. That implied that Fanus created her. But is this her? Is this first her, the Shade of Life, and then the Shade went on to create Egeria? You should read the glider. Oh, I don't have the glider unlocked yet. Fuck. When I get the glider, I'll insert that reading with this video when it goes to YouTube, so that way it's all kind of like in one nice, neat bow. I'm level 8 right now. It took me like 4 weeks into Fontaine to get reputation, which is why I'm behind. Interesting. Okay. That's still crazy to me. Celestia really took that personally, bro. He still remembers the foreign usurper appointing their own god of life to order the living. He still remembers how the usurper had made her to suppress the original vital force of this planet. And of course, he also knows how she came to commit the original sin. It's very interesting too, because it's like Celestia was offended that they used the primordial sea, which was basically like the energy of the original that was here. And they were just like, how dare you use that? That's not ours. I'm offended. Having considered all this, Neuvillette decided then that whoever had penned that rhyme, as well as the Fontanians who came up with it, must not have known the Hydro Dragon all that well, considering that they thought the Hydro Dragon could cry. What did they take said dragon for? Some sort of bleeding heart who grieved for humans and the heavens alike? Yes. Yes, they did. All right, you big softy. Oh, visions. Neuvillette did not need a vision to manipulate the elements. Actual Giga Chad. However, there were some things he learned only after regaining his complete form. Severely wounded in the Great War of Vengeance, the usurper had their functions ruined and could no longer use their absolute authority to suppress the original order of this world. Good lord. What a passage. Severely wounded in the Great War of Vengeance. God damn. So basically, the usurper took their authority and made it so they couldn't use their original powers in a world controlled by them now. Damn, vengeance will be his. To continue to subdue and control the resentment and loathing of the world, the usurper and one who came after... What does that mean? The usurper and one who came after created the Gnosis together? Wait, so Thanos and the second who came created the Gnosis together? The one who came after. I'm assuming that's the second who came. I wish that was capitalized. I wish one who came after, I wish that was capitalized. Because they say it so nonchalantly, like it's not something important. So wait a minute. So why are these descenders killing each other? So you're telling me the first descender and the second descender used the remains of the third descender to create the Gnosis? Does that then mean that they killed the third descender? So it came to be that an order was made to be upheld, and thus did humans come to only possess these 7 remembrances, and all fragments of the primordial were driven to devour each other. What the fuck? I don't know if they're responsible for the third dying. How does the descender just come to Teyvat and die? Like, that's my big question. Like, I'm just like, what? Aether and Lumine showed up 500 years ago. So before they showed up, there was one, but I kind of wish I knew. It's kind of impossible to know how long it's been since the third descender popped off. But actually, it would have had to have been the catalyst that began the Archon War. So like, this third descender shows up, dies, their remains are turned into Gnosis, and then the Archon War happens. So this is like 2,600 years ago, 2,700 years ago, something like that. So it's relatively within our known history of the game. What I'm curious about is why they thought that was a good... That's so fucky. You know what I mean? It's like, let's fucking chop up this person or this being or whoever the hell this third is, and just like mold out these 7 chess pieces with enhanced elemental powers and just give them out to random people so that they feel special. It's so weird. From that day on, whenever a person's wishes reached the heavens, the 7 overseers of the material world were duty bound to grant them a gift. Though they might know nothing of who or what wish had stepped into the threshold of the sacred, the 7 archons still had to impart a shattered shard of their mastery to that person. And when one so gifted completed their duty, the gift of gods would receive in return would be more abundant still. Is this how visions are given out? What this is implying is almost kind of like a piece of an archon's power is taken from them when someone gets a vision of that element. Am I reading that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm not counting Aloy. There's more cryo. Holy shit. So like the Tsaritsa's really putting out right now. God damn. And I feel like that's kind of appropriate given that the Tsaritsa has like this grandmaster plan of bringing all these Gnosis together. So I wonder if she understands what the Gnosis are. The Archon of Love, ladies and gentlemen. She's like, my love knows no bounds. If cryo, why hot, by the way? That also kind of makes me wonder, to give out that much power, how powerful do you have to be to offset that? You know what I mean? The 7 archons still had to impart a shattered shard of their mastery to that person. And when one so gifted completed their duty, the gift the gods would receive in return would be more abundant still. Neuvillette obeys no edicts from the heavens, but he does acknowledge humans still. So he too set aside parts of himself as like unto the dragon treasuring hordes of old, awaiting the valiant humans to come and claim them. First off, I think this confirms that Neuvillette gave Furina her vision, because it has like those little dragon fangs on the side, which is a very unique design specifically for her after everything that they've been through. So that's number 1. Number 2, it kind of implies that an archon's power, right? It says a shard of their mastery, a fraction of their elemental power is taken from them and given to somebody in the world. I don't think that it's of their knowing, because A says, when she talks about visions...
Really? So in all this time, no new electrovisions have appeared in the outside world? Well, what I can say on this topic is subject to certain constraints, but it is not by my will that visions are granted or denied. The key is people's desire, and, well, there's another side to it too.
Oh my god. So is it against their will? It's not by her will. It's by Celestia's will, I think. I think they're forced to do it. I haven't listened to this line since I originally read it, but now she even says this topic is subject to certain constraints, aka we can't talk about it, NDA, and there's another side to it. So I think there's like a collective agreement amongst the 7 that, like, I don't know if it's just complete RNG, but if someone completes a task or if someone is acknowledged by the gods, the roulette spins and whoever it lands on, your power is getting slapped from you and is being given to humans. Bro, this is huge. This is so heavy. Who would have thought we'd learn something like this from a character's profile? This is wild, dude. Yeah, Neuvillette can give it by will, but that's because Neuvillette, he doesn't have a ball and chain on him, right? He's not a prisoner of Celestia. So I feel like he's the exception, honestly. At this point, I think he's the exception. So cool how after this Archon quest, we kind of understand like the nature of a Gnosis and visions even more so now. Like, we still don't understand it to like a definitive degree, but like at least now we know that there's like this kind of unwritten rule. A vision is given out, I think, at random, and whatever element it is, that it is of that element of that Archon's power, whether they like it or not. And I think that will is cast down from Celestia or the authority of whatever dragon. So like, for example, Neuvillette isn't beholden to the heavenly principles. He has his full power back. He's saying a big fuck you to the island in the sky, and he gave Furina her Gnosis. So I think that's kind of cool. So any future characters that get Gnosises, Hydro Gnosises at this point, I wonder if they're also going to have like those little fangs in them to represent Neuvillette post Archon quest, or if it is just going to be like, you know, whatever the case might be. But like, canonically, Furina's just got hers. Whereas if anyone else has a vision, if it doesn't have like that new addition added, that visual addition, it confirms that they got that vision before Neuvillette got his authority back. That'll be really cool to notice and pick up on, especially if we interact with more dragons, like more primordial dragons or sovereign dragons that end up getting their power back for whatever reason. But we'll have to wait and see. This was so cool. I didn't think we'd get Fanis. I didn't think we'd get Egeria being a creation of the Shade of Life. More insight on how the Gnosises were created, who created them, and visions too. Like, this is so cool. I absolutely love this. All right, we're getting into the big tasty bits here.
Greetings. I am the Chief Justice, or Iudex, of Fontaine. But you may simply address me by using my surname, Neuvillette.
Neuvillette.
Not because I wish to keep my distance from you. No, I am merely conscious that being overly familiar may bring the impartiality of the judiciary into question in some people's eyes. If you have any requests or concerns, then, to the extent permissible by law at least, we can sit down and discuss them together as we partake of some imported water from Chaoyin Village.
Oh my god, imported water though? Come on, bro. He loves his water. Chaoyin Village, bro. When are we getting this place? We have to get this place before Natlin. I swear to God. They're teasing us too much, chat.
Melusines are beautiful creatures. They are the pride of Fontaine. Be sure to befriend them and cause them no harm.
Yeah, that last bit was a little threatening, not gonna lie.
I see the value in my own work, but I also see the meaning in all the endeavors of the people of Fontaine. I believe I will continue to take pride in fulfilling my duties.
Okay, I was dreading this, chat, but we have to do it.
Water comes in many flavors to the discerning palate. Mondstadt's water is crisp and pure, while water from Liyue has an enduring aftertaste. In Inazuma, the water possesses a depth of flavor unlike any other. Sumeru's water, meanwhile, has a rich and complex flavor profile, but it must be savored patiently to fully appreciate it.
You know what would be so cool, chat? If this line gets updated based on other nations coming out. I would love for him to talk about the water of Natlin, Snezhnaya, Conria, Celestia's heavenly principal water. You kidding me? That'd be kind of cool. I would really approve if they did that. That'd be sick.
Ah, my apologies. This heavy rain must be quite an inconvenience for you.
I love how he's apologizing because he's like, yeah, this is my fault, by the way.
It's over.
I'm sad. I hate when it rains and not in Fontaine. It's bad. In Inazuma, when there's thunder and lightning, very, very frightening. It's like, okay, A's not having a good day. And then you come to Fontaine and it's raining, and then you're just filled with depression and sadness.
What's that saying again? Bolt from the blue? Yes. Yes, I believe that captures how it feels to me. Snow is in fact one of water's natural self-cleansing mechanisms.
Oh, God.
But human activity tends to reduce snow's purity, so do not consume it.
Once the snow is thick enough, we can eat it.
What is snow if not water persevering?
I find that the beauty of bright sunlight is best appreciated from the indoors through a window.
Oh, this is funny.
I cannot help but feel that you bringing me here is some sort of an assassination attempt.
It's like, no, we're just here to see your old friend Apep. You know, long time.
Good morning. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Aw.
Ah, it's past noon. You must be looking forward to your afternoon tea or coffee break. I certainly am.
I've had enough, chat. They can't keep getting away with this. What the heck is up with this nation? There's like a tea epidemic going on. People are just so hopped up on tea right now.
Good evening. I hope you have not encountered any unpleasantness today. Good night. I am quite fond of the image of a perfectly still body of water. And it is on this note that I would like to wish you a peaceful, undisturbed sleep. May no waves of emotional distress ripple through your dreams tonight.
Oh my God. I'm gonna create this soundbite, and I'm gonna make sure this is the last thing I hear before I go to bed every night for the rest of my life. No one has ever given me a good night send-off like Neuvillette. This is goated.
I am no rabid fan of trials. I preside over them only out of duty, for this is the task that has been entrusted to me.
True. The Weeping Hydra. This is so sad. Weeping?
So you have heard of that local legend as well? Who told you about that?
Fremine?
Or more pertinently, who was responsible for spreading it in the first place? Well, never mind. I don't think that the Hydro Dragon would weep per se. I think he just finds himself a little stirred when he gets a taste of the tears that have been shed on this land.
Oh my God.
On account of all of the emotions they contain.
He's like, look, okay? I'm very emotional. Leave me alone. I'm not crying, okay? You are.
This is a topic that has been discussed ad nauseum. I don't mean to condescend to humanity, but it is quite clear to me that society's concepts of justice, fairness, equality, and rule of law are not equivalent and never can be.
Yep.
Now, of course, water always seeks its own level, and it was in this spirit that the previous Hydro Archon, Egeria, hoped to achieve universal equality by connecting all things with love. Her successor chose instead to seek equality by means of the law. Ultimately, due to various external factors, this unfortunately manifested itself in the distorted form of trials for the sake of trials. Nevertheless, there are reasons for everything, I suppose. I should refrain from criticizing her.
He's like, yeah, you could have done a better job, Focalor, just saying. I mean, at the same time, these trials were all a means to an end. I mean, I guess now he can reform things, but she was like, yo, anything to build up that indemnitium. This freaking god-slaying weapon isn't gonna create itself, you know? She was planning her own execution. What do you want from her?
Since you hail from beyond the stars, I invite you to be my witness as I judge this upended world. This realm dismantled was of the formidable father himself.
Oh my God.
But what now reigns here is a cluster of filthy feathers. Though we live in a world of disarray, I shall undertake to restore all that has been broken.
He is so offended. He's so angry right now, dude. Sheesh. The formidable father himself. Interesting. Yeah, this line, he's like, bro, I'm so pissed off about this world and the ones responsible. They better watch out.
The time that I have spent living among the citizens of Fontaine and traveling with you has transformed my views. Even though before this I had pardoned the sins of humanity long ago, I can promise you that my future judgments will not cause any harm to the common folk.
Hell yeah!
That being said, my grievances with the usurpers have yet to be settled. They owe a debt of blood that shall not be forgotten.
Neuvillette's literally gonna become the Punisher, dude. Neuvillette's gonna go off. No wonder they blocked out all of this. This is basically him just saying that the heavenly principles are gonna pay their debt in blood. Oh my God. The usurpers. Bro, get a pep. She's fuming in the desert right now. She can use an outlet for all that frustration. God, this is gonna be so hype. I really hope Neuvillette has a dragon form. I know that's probably like not possible now that he's reincarnated as a human, but I think with his full dragonhood, I think that would be super cool if he has like a dragon form like a Pep does when they challenge Celestia in like 3 to 5 years from now. God, I can't wait. This is gonna be so sick.
I was once advised to wear a counterfeit vision so that I might more easily intervene during moments of crisis.
Damn Venti moment. Counterfeit vision.
I was once advised to wear a counterfeit vision so that I might more easily intervene during moments of crisis.
That's so funny.
To be quite frank, I was not enamored by this suggestion, nor the implication that one must only exercise the power that is rightfully theirs under false pretenses.
Damn!
With that said, however, I have developed a newfound appreciation for the value of human yearning and determination, having spent considerable time around vision-bearing humans.
I'm at a loss for words, bro. First off, man's kind of low-key dissed Venti right there. He's basically like, Venti, you should be using a fake vision. That power is not even yours to begin with, you coward. And number two, he was like, this is my rightful power. Why the hell would I pretend like it's not? Like, no, I'm not lying. You kidding me? I love how he's owning what is truly and unapologetically his. And he's like, no, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is my power. I'm going to do what I want with it. I love it.
Excuse me? You're saying that even some members of the Seven don a counterfeit vision before mingling with their people? My apologies. I was just caught off guard by the absurdity of the situation.
Okay, I didn't know he was actually going to say that. Bruh. He's like, bro, how are you gonna pretend to be an Archon and then pretend like you're not actually a god? Oh my goodness. He's like, damn, bro, I don't want to meet these other Archons. They're an embarrassment. God, that was so good. He was like cracking up laughing right there. He's like, could not be me, bro. I'm him.
My apologies. I was just caught off guard by the absurdity of the situation.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Fontaine does have some rather intriguing laws on its books. For instance, it is forbidden.
I just realized something that I never thought I wanted more in my life until just now, and it's something that I wanted before this Archon quest even started, but forgot completely about. Yanfei meeting and interacting with Neuvillette. She's the legal advisor. He is the law. I think that would be such a cool interaction too. I wouldn't understand a word that they were saying, but I would just want to see them like be passionate about the law together. I think that'd be really cool.
Fontaine does have some rather intriguing laws on its books. For instance, it is forbidden to release any flying objects during the first 3 days of each month.
Oh my God!
During the dry season, all bivalves that wash ashore belong to the Hydro Archon, while all other mollusks belong to the people. No domestic pets shall be named after Farina. Tomato ketchup is to be consumed in restaurants only as a condiment, never on its own. And finally, Melusines are to be addressed using she, her pronouns, never the impersonal it, its. That last one was my personal contribution.
Hell yeah. And you're a real one for that. That first one, the flying, I went back and watched my Act 1 Archon quest, and that was the whole thing with Paimon. We were like, oh, she's a balloon. And I was just like, get it? Because her head's filled with air. I joke, all right? Paimon's the butt of the joke around these parts, okay? I love Paimon.
Some days my mind wanders, and I fantasize about walking into the rain. Oh, but don't worry. My flights of fancy don't distract me from my work.
Vishaps.
The Bishop's ancestry can be traced directly back to the Fontamercy, which is why they are so adept at evolution.
Fontamercy?
I am reminded of an old custom that the dragons once observed. We would take a sip of our perished young brethren's blood. Whenever the tides are disrupted by the motion of the moon and stars, the water within the bodies of us hydro-organisms surges up towards our heads, reminding us that our deceased kin will soon be revived.
Holy shit. He's like, fuck the blood of my enemies. How about the blood of my own kin? This is actually a really cool passage. I did not realize that that was even a custom. I wonder if Neuvillette knows anything about Vishat people. It's a little different for him, but isn't he technically like the closest thing to besides Sumi? It'd be kind of cool if we get like Vishat people in Natlan after it talks about like how dragons and humans coexist. I wonder if we'll ever see Sumi again too. It's been a couple years. It's so sad. We got Enka in 2.4, Three Realms Gateway in 2.5, and then they really said, all right, I'm gonna head out. The blood of my kin. That's a new one. That's interesting.
From my observations, humans have a tendency to view themselves as being in opposition with nature. And whenever this point is raised, someone is always quick to respond by declaring that humans are in fact a part of nature like any other organism. To someone like me, however, who knows an inkling of the truth, what would be most beneficial is if human civilization and the natural world of this planet could seek ways to coexist with one another.
That is true. Humans were never here in the beginning to begin with, so get along or get a move on. Oh, the Archon's cool.
Nothing will stop me from rendering judgment on each of the 7.
Oh, is he about to judge all of these gods? Hold up.
Nothing will stop me from rendering judgment on each of the 7.
Hold up.
As the Archon who won the authority of Geo, Deus Ori must be called to trial.
Whoa!
If one does not wish to see us on opposite sides of a conflict, they need not worry, for I intend to stay in Fontaine for the foreseeable future, which could well mean another 400 years. As another point of consolation, even when the trial eventually takes place, it is still not a given that the judgment will lead to a physical confrontation.
Oh, shit. So he's basically like, if you've taken an authority of one of my brethren, your ass is being put on trial. Is that another name, another title? Deus Ori? God of Gold. Okay. Wow, that is cool. I love that he's got a name for him. Like, as the Archon who won the authority of Geo, Deus Ori must be called to trial. Damn it, Neuvillette is essentially saying, I won't have to deal with that for another 400 years or so. So he's got time. I mean, this man's already retired. He doesn't even have the Gnosis anymore. He's literally just a normal commoner. You have to worry about whoever comes next. He's already hung up his hat.
I shall fulfill my vow to judge all of the 7 in turn, even if the sky should fall and the ground give way. As the recipient of the authority of Animo, the god of breeze and hope must also stand trial. He spends most of his time being a harmless drunkard. Well, even so, I must meet him for myself and proceed from there.
Damn, he is so aggressive right now against the... What is he gonna say against poor little Nahida? Nahida's just like a freaking pure innocent child. I'm like, I don't give a damn. These kids have to be taught a lesson. She got screwed over too, you know.
As a survivor of the dragon race who has regained my full dragonhood, I must fulfill my oaths and obligations, even if it means returning all the water in the oceans back to the heavens. In taking the authority of Electro, the Narukami placed herself on the list of the usurpers. She will...
Damn.
Oh.
Oh my...
You say she has isolated herself in the plane of Euthymia.
Bruh.
Now rarely appears in public.
Yeah.
Then I shall pay her a visit in another few centuries.
Is all of his plans just getting, like, thwarted? It's like, Venti shall pay. Oh, wait, what's that? He's a drunk and he can't, like, defend himself in a court of law? Well, you know what? We'll come back to that another day, I guess. How about that Electro Archon? I heard that she gave her people a lot of grief. It's time for her to pay. Wait, what's that? She's not around? Like, I feel like he's not going to be able to, like, judge anybody.
Though the day will come when I put her on trial, I must commend the god of verdure on her sense of responsibility.
Ooh.
Few things are without flaws in this world, but the devotion and benevolence she displays are a testament to her commitment to continued progress.
Yes!
I felt enormous regret when I learned of the mistreatment she has endured over the past 500 years.
All right, Nahida gets a pass. Let's go. I was actually kind of scared. I thought he was going to be like... He's just gonna start bullying little kids. Oh my god. See, Nahida's great. Nahida's awesome. I love her so much. All right, take Zhongli to court, okay? How is this man going to like give up his authority and not make money for his own retirement fund? You should charge him for stupidity right there. Venti's been holding out on Lore this whole time. I feel like he has a few things he could say in the court. A's depressed, okay? Leave her alone. Let her do her own thing. And Nahida's literally perfect. All right, she did nothing wrong. Yeah, I don't know who he's gonna judge at the end of the day. I assume they're gonna add they're gonna update his dialogue too when we get the Pyro and Cryo Archon. So yeah, I guess only time will tell.
Wriothesley is a trustworthy man. I fought hard for the title and reputation he now has. I expect you to think that I've simply been duped by his flattery and appearance of loyalty, but to that I would quote the Inazuman proverb, "The words unspoken are the flower," which means some things are best left unsaid.
I like that. I like their relationship. They're cool.
Cloran's peerless skills have made her the most powerful champion duelist in our nation.
Oh?
As a successor to the Maréchaussée hunters of old, she plays a vital role in ensuring the fairness and impartiality of the courtroom.
Good shit.
Also, she's actually not as stoic as she might appear.
I'll be honest with you, I was actually thinking about that earlier. I'm really hoping that they kind of flesh her out a little bit more, because I feel like she has this very stoic demeanor that doesn't really give me a sense of who she is as a person. I really, really hope that her story quest, whenever she comes out, kind of fleshes her out in that regard, or gives us a little bit more on her outside of what we got in the Archon quest.
Their performances are just fascinating, don't you think? They draw you into a magical world where, on one hand, everything that takes place is part of an elaborate deception, but on the other, all manner of miracles are possible if you are only willing to believe.
True. True magicians. You love it.
I don't know how Sigewinne is faring these days. But if I hear so much as the whiff of a rumor that she's being bullied, I shall summon Wriothesley here and demand an explanation.
Yo!
She's so kind and vulnerable. She brought me some camera film the last time she visited, and asked to listen to more of my commentary on the water of Natlan.
Oh, God.
How long is it until her next vacation?
Oh, my. Is he... I was joking earlier. I was like, wait, will he talk about water from other nations? He's already ahead of me. Oh, my God. The water of Natlan has a very volcanic profile to its taste. Yeah, I love that. Yo, defend your children. Defend Sigewinne. I mean, I don't know. Sigewinne, I feel like if anything, she might be doing the bullying. That's nice, though. I like how he's protective of them.
Now the curtain has finally fallen on her performance. The character she portrayed was an imaginary one, yet in playing that role, she fulfilled her duties. Though she is meek and full of doubt by nature, she was able to use madness to stiffen her resolve and see her duty through to its conclusion.
Yeah.
The work that she has done over the centuries is truly immense. If she were to ever make a return to the stage, I should personally attend the performance and give her my heartfelt applause. Yes, I must do so when the opportunity arises.
God. I feel like he was in the stage when he gave her the vision. I think that would be really awesome if like he was in that performance, like he was in the stage during that performance of her story quest. I think that would have been really awesome. Yeah, it is hard to imagine that he wouldn't be there just because like he was pretty much encouraging her to get back on stage, and lo and behold, it ended up happening. Yeah, that's my headcanon, and I'm sticking to it.
I regret to say that after my various interactions with her, such as when I inadvertently angered her and when I accepted her apology, and even now, in spite of the guilt I continue to feel over what happened to her father, I feel very distant from her, as if I'm observing the starry sky from the bottom of a deep lake. It is by no means intentional, and I also know it is not something that I can easily make up for. Unlike water, emotion does not settle quickly once agitated, nor is it naturally inclined towards equilibrium.
Yeah, I can understand. That's just a bunch of conflicting emotions right there from the past and the present. Equilibrium. Yeah, Honkai Star Rail moment. All right, let's get into more about him.
I usually do my best to avoid forming personal relationships or even collaborating with others outside of established procedures. But you have shown yourself to be trustworthy, and you have no problematic entanglements with Fontaine's local factions.
Okay.
Therefore, I would be pleased to journey with you.
Hey, we're not problematic. Let's go.
This is something that I can only say in private. I could never publicly share my views on this matter. It positively baffles me that Fanta has managed to become such a popular drink. Though I suppose its appeal to humans is not beyond comprehension. One can both rehydrate and replenish blood sugar in one gulp, and at an exceptionally cheap price.
Damn, my guy's over here criticizing Fanta. That's so funny. He's like, I can never be biased in the public eye. Just between you and me, I'm not a fan of pop.
I went to see an opera recently.
That's funny.
It was about a lady whose personal charm and manipulative schemes allowed her to continue to dominate the affairs of the grand mansion where she lived even after her death.
Oh my god.
Like a ghost that refused to be exorcised. The acting was impeccable, and the story exceptional. It also reminded me of the current state of affairs in the real world.
Oh boy, that sounds like an interesting play. Kind of scary, not gonna lie.
For a number of reasons, I rarely leave Fontaine. As a result, though I enjoy tasting spring water from all over the world, I always have it delivered to me here, rather than collecting it myself. And yes, subtle as the flavor differences between samples of different regions may be, I am perfectly capable of distinguishing between them. Do you still doubt me?
Bruh.
I am the Udex. I do not lie.
Okay. I never doubted you for a second, Monsieur Neuvillette. Please don't hurt me. Please don't judge me. Oh, man. He really gets imported waters from all over the world. God, that's so funny.
I have to say, my daily life is not without its inconveniences. For instance, I often find myself stepping on my robes as I sit down, or squashing my coiffure against the chair. And if I lean my head too far back, sometimes my hair even gets caught in the ornamentation. Nevertheless, I must wear these garments to maintain the dignity of a Chief Justice, and endure whatever inconveniences this entails. Incidentally, the world at large appears to operate on this general principle too. Everyone is faced with an identity that they must accept, endure, understand, and eventually learn to coexist with.
Yeah.
This has been my experience all along.
I think that was what the twins mentioned, right? The 4 things of Fontaine. It's about accept, endure, understand, exist, or coexist. That's so cool that they harken back to that. Yeah, that is true. That is life. It's like, we all got to do things we don't really want to, but it's the only way that we can get by.
Water tasting is a rather sophisticated discipline. Pyro-heated water has the standard au naturel flavor.
Are we really doing this right now? Is he really about to get into the waters of Natlin and Snezhnaya right now, dude? Oh my, I was joking! I was like, yeah, at least I don't have to, if they do implement this, I don't have to worry about it until we get to Natlin and Snezhnaya, and they were like, bro, we got you.
Water tasting is a rather sophisticated discipline.
Bruh.
Pyro-heated water has the standard au naturel flavor found ubiquitously in the natural world, while water boiled using charcoal has distinctly rustic notes.
Yeah.
Similarly, while cryo-chilled water is cold but otherwise unremarkable, the frozen rivers of Snezhnaya, when melted, produce a water with an entirely different flavor profile altogether.
They made up for the last 2 nations. I guess that's the dialogue right there. Thank God. If they had all of that as one dialogue response, like one quote, that would have been like ridiculous. I love how committed they are to doing that for him. Now, we need one for the Abyss and Celestia and Conry if there's any water down there. All right. I swear to God, if they have that here too, I'm going to be pissed.
People seem to respond to the sight of a man in the rain without an umbrella as if it were some sort of strange spectacle.
I'm sorry, sir.
Animals can survive for weeks without food, but merely a few days without water.
Yep.
There is no dish that could ever compare to pure, unadulterated water. With that in mind, food items that contain plenty of liquid are the next best thing.
Bro really said his favorite food is water.
Water is not a food, sir. He's like, I freeze the water and then I chew on it. He's like, yes, solid water, my favorite.
How can people bring themselves to consume deep-fried foods?
Or
grilled food with no sauce?
Shut up.
The worst culprits, in my view, are those charcoal-baked argilenac cakes. Surely even eating a dehumidifying agent would be kinder on the stomach.
I don't know what to say. Also, doesn't Nahida like those cakes? How you gonna talk down on Nahida's food? I can't. This man, he needs to be stopped. How dare you bash greasy, fried deliciousness?
I'm a little more familiar with you now. I can match your movements. Apparently, I'll have to show a little more of my true capabilities. I did not realize that you had such a penchant for getting into dangerous situations.
Damn, bro.
So this is what you're truly capable of? And I shall have to get serious if I wish to catch up with you.
Conclusion. Oh, shit!
Now that I have reclaimed one of the 7 authorities from the hands of the usurpers, I have regained my true form. I am now a fully fledged dragon.
Holy...
Powerful enough to judge the rest of the gods.
Damn!
My final destiny is to judge the usurper king in the heavens above. But until that time comes, I will lend my power to you.
Holy shit. That's like his declaration of war right there to Celestia. This was already unlocked before 4.2. Wait, this was unlocked? This spoils. That's an L moment right there, Hoyoverse. I'm so glad I didn't read this shit. So, yeah, so I remember when I got Neuvillette, a bunch of people were asking me, they were like, Arnold, did you read the lore? Did you read the Ascension quotes? And I'm like, no, like I literally ascend. I freaking hit the skip button because now they have the quotes when you actually ascend. So I didn't know about any of this. I skip all that anyway. I don't read it until I finish like story quest stuff. But yeah, this would have just confirmed that this probably had people freaking scared out their ass that something was going to happen to Farina, because this implies that the Archon died, but this was before the Focalors twist. So technically it's still a misdirection, but once you found out about Focalor, it would have confirmed to you that she was gonna die. Don't read dialogue and stuff like this before doing the Archon quest for yourself if you guys were unintentional. I mean, I guess you guys couldn't see it coming. Like, why would they locked other things? Why wouldn't they lock this? But yeah, I would just stay away from all of this until I did the quests in question. Monsieur Neuvillette, you have given me quite a lot to think about. I did not realize we would learn as much as we did. This man has it out for the usurpers, and you know what? I'm right there with him. A part of me really feels like Hoyoverse is gonna be like, well, you got Teyvat's side of things. Now let's hear about the usurper's perspective. Why did they defeat the dragons? Why did they move in on this turf? What are their intentions? What are their motivations? And I really feel like they're gonna give us a very compelling response to the things that have been happening, because it seems very one-sided that the Abyss hates Celestia, the Archons hate Celestia, the dragons hate Celestia, the Fatui hates Celestia. We as the players hate Celestia because the game is kind of driving us in that direction. It's like the Fatui. It's like after Liyue, like everything that happened in Liyue when people are like, fuck the Fatui, they're the bad guys. But I think since then we've kind of become educated that the Fatui aren't really bad necessarily. They're just kind of like messy in their approach to doing things. The ends justify the means for them. And I just feel like we're being told to like paint this castle in the sky as a villain without having their side of the story or their perspective on anything. I'm expecting them to give me a pretty compelling and conflicting perspective that makes me question everything. I don't even know if our sister knows what Celestia knows. She got captured by the sustainer of heavenly principles, so I would almost assume that Lumine knows everything, but she's also trying to take down the 7 thrones, the divine thrones. She's trying to engulf the thrones, and I guess Focalors did her job for her for one of them. Like, I want to be on their side, but a part of me, the gamer part of me, is just like, I don't want to feel like an idiot. I don't want to be like, I'm on team fuck Celestia. I'm here to take them down with everybody, and then I get to Celestia in like 5 years, and then I'm singing a different tune. You know what I mean? I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look back at past Arno and be like, you fool! You didn't know! You had no idea! And you pledged your allegiance anyways. Right now, they don't look good. They look really bad for all of the things that have happened in this world that have come down to the natural law and order and how things are governed and how things work. They don't look good. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of issues that have happened here, from the Abyss to forbidden knowledge to like even the fight for the 7, like slaughter. I feel like the Archon War almost was kind of like a blood sport for the gods of Celestia, because it's like, what justification is there just to give these little chess pieces that are now getting yoinked by the same gods that were given out to them. You know what I mean? So only time will tell, but absolutely loved this. Really, really, really compelling stuff. I'm excited for the future of Genshin. We have so much lore regarding Certology, the Visionary, Gold, you know, the Whale. I think the Whale has a bit of lore tied to that too, which we're going to check that out eventually once I get all of their materials in my inventory. But we'll tackle that when we get to it, and I'm sure that'll blow my mind even more so than now. So, yeah. Alrighty, so this is going to be an edit that I'm inserting at the end of Neuvillette's character lore reading session. We are back because I finally have the wing glider for Fontaine, the Reputation wing glider. I did not have it at the time of his and Furina's character lore reading, so I wasn't able to do much with it at the time. However, this is going to be tacked on at the end of that, so I just wanted to let you guys know of it. We are a few patches beyond 4.2. I still haven't read it yet, so this is just going to be all relatively new information that continues most likely what we just read regarding Neuvillette, his dragon sovereignty, and everything else in between. And chat basically was like, Arnold, you need to read this. It's pretty important. So I'm expecting it to have something to do along those lines with the Primordial Age, Celestia, etc., etc. So with all that said, we're going to be checking out the Wings of Merciful Wrathful Waters, a stylized wing glider gifted to you as a mark of Fontaine's acknowledgement and recognition. Okay, legend has it that the first of oceans had a composition similar to that of blood. Oh, great. And that life within it was not individual. To set foot upon land or take to the skies, life evolved blood vessels to keep primordial ocean flowing within itself. The beating heart that commanded this primordial sea of blood was the first Hydro Dragon. Each time that heart pulsed, all life would arise and give it praise. Of course, there are simple tales that the Hydro Vishaps tell each other and are not to be trusted. Perhaps this tale was told differently amongst other Vishaps, and the stories passed down between Oceanids speak of what came after. Okay, so in the beginning, basically water was the lifeblood of the world. Everything came from it, and in order to evolve, like despite life carrying on, the blood vessels evolved. So basically everything still has the genetic makeup of the primordial water or the primordial sea. And the creator of that primordial sea of blood was, I guess, Neuvillette's original life. So I think that's more appropriate that we're reading this and tacking it with Neuvillette's lore. When that first heartbeat was removed, aka when the sovereign dragon lord of water was killed, the envoy of Celestia, the leader upon whose shoulders lay the duty of creating life, came to the great primeval sea, and there she created another heart. So this is saying that Fantas's Shade of Life created Egeria. I think that's what it's implying here. In the lore, that's basically what it revealed to us. So, wow, that's crazy. So she was created from the Shade of Life of Fanis and then went on to become the Hydro Archon. And she took the place of the Primordial Sea in place of the Sovereign Dragon because it died and then was reincarnated into Neuvillette. And then, you know, he had to discover humans and go through his 500-year character development to where, like, now he's back in that position. Holy moly, this is crazy. So I want to emphasize this and reinforce this one more time and kind of have a little bit of a confession. I don't really know how to interpret Before Sun and Moon when it comes to the first who came and the second who came. My interpretation for the longest time was always that the first who came was Fanis and the second who came was Celestia. Celestia beats Fanis and overtakes Teyvat. But this is essentially revealing that the leader of Celestia created the Shade of Life, which then gave birth to Egeria, which seems to imply that Fanis is the leader of Celestia. So who was the second who came then? Unless it was like I don't know. It's weird. Unless Celestia came, Fanis beat it and then moved in. Yeah, Fanis being Celestia, I never correlated that because Celestia is the current rulers. And if there was this big war, it would make sense in my mind that whoever came in after the first overthrew the first. and is now the currently establishing rule. I might have to look at it again because it's been a couple of years since I've looked at Before Sun and Moon. And then the third descender is dead, which that could be Nibelung because dragons can technically reincarnate. So Nibelung's original corpse could be what created the Gnosis, which would, the Gnosises were also created in partnership of the first who came and the second. So why did they fight in the first place if they then worked together to create the Gnosis using the corpse of the third descender? I don't know. I mean, I guess they could work together. There's nothing that says that they have to be like inherently enemies, but like Before Sun and Moon imply that there was a war between the first and the second. Or maybe what they were saying is that there was a war going on and then the second who came just happened to be a part of it during that time. Also, I don't really get where this idea that Nibelung is a descender comes from. Like, I would want to say maybe it is Nibelung, but at the same time, isn't he like a native to Teyvat? Didn't he lead the dragons? Like, I've heard some people mention that Nibelung might be a descender, but if he's the leader of the dragons, he would be native. But then again, you can become a descender without being... You can be a native and still be a descender. That's what Rene de Petrichor found out in his research. He was like, because he was trying to become a descender. So a descender can be anyone, but your will has to match that of like a world in order to reach that title. I don't think you have to be from outside Teyvat to be a descender. It just so happens that the people that came here from outside worlds, their will match the descender status. So Nibelung could have turned into a descender or could have became a descender over the course of this rule, over the course of like becoming the leader of the dragons, you know, especially after he brought forbidden knowledge to Teyvat, or he harnessed forbidden knowledge, I should say. Like the forbidden knowledge could have given him that metamorphosis. So yeah, that's very interesting. This first passage is very, very exciting. Okay, let's continue. All right, so I'm going to read this again. When the first heart was removed, aka when the original sovereign dragon was killed, the envoy of Celestia, the leader upon whose shoulders lay the duty to create life, so Fantas's shade of life, came to the great primeval sea, came to the primordial sea, and created Egeria. That heart had like nobility unto a dragon, but lacked its outer form, and had the majesty of a god, but was bereft any divine duty. And though it was created by a ruler of humans, its substance and essence were all original material from this world, entirely outside elements. She was the tears that flowed into the primordial sea, seeking communication and understanding, a pursuit that caused her to weep. And from the lore we read from the Virgil world quest, the first tear birthed the first Oceanid. So her crying created the Oceanids. And it was due to that compassion that she committed all the sins that all beings of pure water must beware. So she wanted to give her people, basically the lore of the Fontaine Archon quest, the reveal that she wanted her Oceanids to understand what it was like to be human. So she turned them into humans. She committed a sin. Celestia cursed them. The prophecy was established, and then history, the rest is history. All right, let's see. What followed after that is a version of the tale that humans tell, although it is commonly passed down only among scholars. The great Remus came to Fontaine, envisioning a mighty and eternal city, Remoria. He instructed the people and eventually managed to reach one part of his dream. Then swiftly came the prophecy, not ill-intended, yet horrifying beyond measure, that the golden melody would one day end and Remoria would fall. So that's the Golden Troop artifact set lore. It is often said that should a hero not die upon returning home, they shall become a tyrant. The justice that Remoria imposed to escape this destiny would eventually turn into tyranny, and this tyranny would bring about resistance like a wrathful tide. Thus did Remoria vanish. Thus did Remus vanish. Remus the eminent, Remus the half-wit, Remus the far-sighted, Remus the solitary. Interesting. So tying Remoria into all of this as well is very interesting, because he had a lot to do with like the ancient establishment of like the Golden Troop, which also kind of gives me like Golden Slumber energy to an extent, especially with like King Deshret's lore and all of that. I'm wondering if we're gonna get anything regarding Remoria before the end of Fontaine, like if we're gonna go there potentially. If they have one more region expansion, because you still can't max out the Statue of the Seven as of version 4.4. So whatever next expansion they give might give us some Remoria crumbs, or more Remoria lore. We should be getting Petrichor, which is where Renee de Petrichor is from, and that is where the Daydreamer Society is, and they might have their own lore as well. So we have to wait and see. Humans desire judgment because they feel guilty. Humans desire, and so they want to receive. Humans always desire a god. That is why the Primordial Sea's heart, gentle Egeria, was awarded a shard of that one who was first and gained both godhood and the divine come lately. That desire for her, like to basically give the people guidance, that's how she got her. I think that's her getting bestowed the Gnosis, the Hydronosis. Was that the desire of humanity having reached the heavens, or was it merely the opening act of a strike of dark plots? This is a tale that no one can know but you. When you awake, these wings and the aforementioned tale will appear at your bedside. You can ask all the species of this world to prove if their tales are true or not, and not one of them shall believe you. For how could this wing glider and their tales materialize before you out of thin air? I wonder who this lore is from the perspective of. Like, that last line almost kind of seemed like this lore is being passed on to someone. Yeah, that is very interesting. So it basically establishes Egeria's creation by the Shade of Life, what became of the rule of the Primordial Sea after the Hydro Dragon's death, and subsequently Neuvillette's birth, the things that followed. So from there, they talked about Remoria, and then after Remus fell, Egeria took the place of those people that were without their ruler, and thus the rest is history. With Egeria followed until Tunigi Hollow, where she was killed during the fall of Conria, and then Focalors had to take over and figure out this entire prophecy thing, and thus was the Archon quest. That was really interesting lore right there. I'm wondering if Scylla was the Hydro Dragon Sovereign then, but I'm not sure, because it seems like the Hydro Dragon Sovereign was killed during the battle between Phanis and the Seven Dragons, but Scylla was mentioned during the ruling time of Remus. So I'm not entirely sure if Scylla was the dragon. I mean, they could have been. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever really know. Maybe if we get a Pyro Dragon in Natlin or a Ice Dragon in Snezhnaya, maybe we'll learn like the full story of the dragon's history by that point. That would be kind of cool, especially since we still haven't gotten any word of an actual Electro Dragon. But Apep did mention that some of the dragons fled, some of them died. We don't know which ones are alive or which ones are dead. The Electro one could very well be dead, but the only thing is the prophecy said that the Hydra one would be reincarnated in the form of a human, whereas I think any other primordial dragons, like the sovereigns, they'll just revive, period, into like a new dragon form. Neuvillette, I think, was the only one that was going to be revived in the form of a human, and that was pivotal to stopping the prophecy. Removed doesn't mean killed, but the dragon had to be killed in order for Neuvillette to be reincarnated. Yeah, this had to have been it, because Neuvillette's thousands of years old. So this would have taken place thousands of years ago. But by the time Egeria becomes the Archon, that's a little closer to like Conria time. Like, it's after Remoria, but before the Cataclysm. Because then after she dies, Focalors takes over. That was a translation error. He's only around 1,000. Yeah, even then. Okay, 1,000 years ago. That would mess with the timeline then. We just don't know when this Hydro Dragon died, but I think this is establishing that the dragon died. And in the meantime, they needed a plant to watch over the Primordial Sea, and so they created Egeria. I guess there's a gap in time from the reincarnation, but I don't think he reincarnated into the man we see him now. For all we know, he could have just been like a little baby or something. I have no idea how that process works for the dragons. Egeria existed for quite a while before being made into an Archon. I'm aware of that. It's just like she was created, watched over the Primordial Sea, and then Remus came into existence. Remus came into the picture. He ruled for a bit, but then he died and his kingdom fell. And then Celestia was like, hey, those people need a savior. They need a god to watch over them. And then Egeria was like released from her like freaking her duties, or like her, I guess her different duties for Celestia, and became the Archon. So she was already around for a time, which means like the Hydro Dragon must have been dead by then, because why would they create Egeria to watch over the sea then? And it wasn't until Enkanomiya, where they were researching on the Geovishap hatchlings and whatnot, like that's where they started putting together this prophecy of the Hydro Dragon being reincarnated into a human. And that's interesting because that's a prophecy alongside another prophecy that's happening for Fontaine. Like, I've never really considered this until now, especially with Neuvillette. I want the primordial sovereigns to be more involved with the Archon quests now. I want the Pyro Dragon to be a part of the Archon quest. Now, after what they did with Neuvillette, I feel like they're like converging all of these different plot points. They have the Sovereign Dragons, they have Celestia, they have the Fatui, they have the Archons. Like, I really would love if the Pyro Dragon is featured, maybe in a similar way to Neuvillette. It would be a little different though. They'd probably have to be featured kind of like a pep, because Neuvillette is the only like human dragon. But I'm wondering if the Tsaritsa is trying to resurrect Nibelung by getting all of the Gnosis, which we now know are made using, if he was the third descender, using his remains to bring him back, or using the remains of the third descender to resurrect the third descender. And Ode to Resurrection, Incandescent Ode to Resurrection might have something to do with that, because she just needs the Natlin one. I'm pretty sure the Cryo Archon has her Gnosis, and she's going around and taking them from the other gods. The third descender might come back, potentially, or she might pull a fast one and get all of the Gnosis, obviously use their powers, maybe to like give herself a boost or whatever, or just basically use their powers against Celestia. But yeah, this kind of opens up a little bit more of the context with Egeria's creation, the original Sovereign Dragon, Celestia's involvement, and like their kind of continuous involvement in the world leading up to Conria, Remoria, which I hope we learn a little bit more about, and then Egeria's placement as the Archon. Yeah, that was really good lore. That was really good lore. I know I said I was gonna do the cooking event, but I think I cooked a little. I think I was cooking pretty plenty during this entire session. It's gonna be a while before Natlin comes out. We still have the second story quest of either Neuvillette or Farina. I don't know which one they're gonna decide to do, because with Neuvillette being a fully realized dragon, I don't know what they're gonna do for the weekly boss now, because in the past it was Ajdaha, it was a pep. But now we don't have a new sovereign dragon. We don't have a new dragon to fight unless Neuvillette's gonna get like a dragon form for us to train or something. So I don't know what the weekly boss is gonna be. I also don't know who the focus is gonna be on, because in the past it's always been the Archon, but Farina is no longer the Archon, and Neuvillette is like the closest thing to an Archon in the region. So I don't know if they're gonna give us Neuvillette Part 2 or Farina Part 2, or Neuvillette Part 2 featuring Farina. I would accept that too. I think that would be great. I think whatever we get next moving forward for the next Part 2 quest in Fontaine, that's gonna kind of leave us off on what to expect with Natlin, the Pyro Dragon, the next Archon quest line, and everything else in between. So very excited for that.